Today we're doing a complete walkthrough of the fuel system on our LS Swap 2nd Gen Camaro. Before we had made a video about 2 ways that you can make a cheap fuel system for your LS Swap. And now that this one is running, it fires up, it works, we thought we'd do a complete walkthrough of the entire fuel system from front to back or from back to front, whichever direction makes sense, so that you can see what's going on this setup, what we did and why, and maybe why some of the things I showed you before still work or don't work. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video for you is that a lot of times people will show you what they've bought for their fuel system, but you never get to see like, hey, did that thing actually work? Is it running? Did everything that you showed me work the way I wanted it to? So I thought I'd do a follow-up so that you can see something that works from start to finish. So I'm gonna start first by showing you exactly what I'm working with here. So you've got a point of reference for if this applies to what you're doing or not. Let's take a look at the car itself and the setup that we've got. So this car is a 78 Camaro Z28. It was originally a 350, turbo 350 car. It's kind of like any muscle car that's, you know, got a regular small block. This was a former race car, so it had nothing inside. It was just a shell. It didn't even have wiring in it. And our plan was to just do a basic LS swap. We pulled the entire drivetrain out of this 2000 two-wheel drive Suburban back here. We've been using a bunch of parts off it. So what we have under the hood, this is an LM7 5.3, and it's backed by a 4L60E, all out of the 2000 Suburban. It is running. We still got to clean up some of the wiring, make it look neat, but this is a functional car now. So we're not working with theory, we're working with what's actually happening. So what I'm gonna do is start at the back of the car in the trunk with the tank back there, and we'll work our way forward on the car. Now, anything I mentioned, I'm gonna put a link in the description where I'll give you all the information to anything that I used. That way you can see for yourself. I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, what worked and what didn't. So let's go back to the trunk and start back there. All right, so we're here at the back end of the car. Here's our fuel setup in the trunk. Now, when I bought this car, they had already hacked the trunk. There was already a hole cut in there very poorly. It was missing the stock fuel system. It was missing the stock tank. So that presented kind of a challenge when I was figuring out how I was gonna build the fuel system on this car. It did come with this hardwood fuel cell, but it wasn't mounted in here nicely like that. It was just thrown in the trunk with some straps. Since the car was already cut up, I decided I would go ahead and use this fuel cell as my tank for the system. If you have a car like this, probably your best bet is going to be to get a tank made for fuel injection for your car so you don't have to hack up your car. It'll just simplify things. Unless you want to do this kind of fabrication, then that's fine. One thing to note, that round section in the back, that is your fuel sending unit. And if you hook that up correctly, as long as like the ohms or the resistance matches with your gauge, you'll have a working fuel gauge in your car. So you could potentially hook that up to the factory fuel gauge, or since my car was missing the entire cluster, I just got an inexpensive fuel gauge from Amazon. I'm pretty sure this is made for like a boat application, but I got a whole set of matching gauges to build my own cluster. I should hook up right up to that with the factory wiring, and I will have a working fuel gauge. So we decided to go with a returnless system, and it uses the Corvette filter regulator. It's an easy way to set up your fuel system, and we're gonna crawl under the car and look at what's under there so I can show you how we built that out. Okay, so if you look under the car, a couple things. We built our own fuel cell mount out of angle iron, and it bolts directly to the stock tank strap location. So four bolts, and this whole cradle bolts in exactly like a stock tank would. Now, we're not finished. You can see some wiring and stuff hanging here. We'll talk about that in a second. We will fab some sheet metal to close all this in so you don't see it. But if you crawl under here, here we have our send line going into a pre-filter right there. And that pre-filter is like a stainless steel filter inside. We'll give you links to that. I really like that because you can take it apart and clean it. Then the line goes to our fuel pump. Now, this is a Walbro GSL 392 external pump. Surprisingly, that pump is pretty quiet. And if you purchase one of these Walbro, or some of them say T1 Automotive, there might be some confusion over whether you're getting a genuine pump or not. T1 bought Walbro, so if it says T1, it is a genuine Walbro. And then this goes into our Corvette filter regulator. You can buy these Corvette filter regulators just about anywhere. You can go to like Summit or Speedway and they'll give you a kit with all the fittings and everything, or you can shop it separately. I shop some of the stuff separately, and I saved a little bit of money by shopping it separately, but if you don't want to waste your time doing that, you can just order everything in the kit, and it would include things like these GM Quick Connect fittings right here. So my fuel lines that I made will plug straight into this filter regulator, just like it was a stock GM unit. And then my return line comes off this and goes straight into the fuel cell. So that's the great part about using this Corvette filter regulator, is that you can run a single line up the car, and my return line is like 2 feet and it goes straight back to the fuel cell. It makes for a little bit easier routing. Just make sure when you buy these that you get the right size fittings for the end. I had the wrong one here and it leaked, so I had to buy another one. And if I was going to do this differently, after getting this together, if I was going to do this differently, I would have just put all these things in a straight line. I've got my fuel lines are kind of looped around down there, and it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything, but it's not ideal. I would have preferred for it to be a little bit neater. Maybe the other thing that would have helped is getting some 90-degree fittings. But overall, it works, and I'm happy with it. Next, I'm going to show you the fuel line going up the car, but I want to show you something else before that. All right, so I'm going to show you up here on the engine. So this entire fuel system is built out of this hose here. So this is called AeroQuip AQP socketless hose. And then you use all socketless or push lock fittings. And I really like these. I'm going to tell you a couple reasons why. But first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can get a free sticker if you subscribe. And we'll put a link in the description where you can get a free sticker. Not just this one, but we've got a bunch of other ones. So after you watch this video, go ahead and subscribe. We'll send you a free sticker, free shipping and everything. So the reason I like that AeroQuip AQP hose is that it is NHRA approved, so that if I went to a track and I wanted to race this car and I had a tech guy that was like really thorough, then that hose would pass inspection for anything I used it for on the car. The other thing is that hose is supposed to be fairly resistant to E85 if you were ever going to run E85 in the car. This one's not set up for that, so I'm not going to have to worry about that. It's reasonably inexpensive compared to other hoses, and it's pretty easy to build or custom make your hoses. All you have to do is cut them to length, push that fitting in, and you're done. You don't have to like mess with the braid and all that stuff. Now, as an alternative, you could go and get like, eBay and Amazon have all these kits with these fittings that you build. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to use that, that's fine. A no-name hose isn't going to be on that list of approved hoses. You may be fine in tech, but if you're like a hardcore racer, which I'll admit that I'm not, it may not work for you. So this entire car, I'm running -6 AN. If you're not familiar with AN, I think it means Army Navy. Each number represents something. I'll put it on the screen. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like a piece of useless knowledge. So if you want to know where this -6, -8, -10, what all that means, it'll be on the screen while I'm talking about it. But -6 should be plenty sufficient, big enough to flow enough fuel for whatever this car is going to make. It's a fairly stock 5.3. We've just got a cam and some springs, set of headers on it. So really, these engines stock made roughly 300 horsepower. The stuff I've got on it, I'll be lucky if it hits 400. I doubt it'll be even that high, but -6 line should be sufficient for that. If you were going to do a turbo build or a forced induction build, I would recommend a bigger line like a -10. For forced induction, I would not necessarily recommend the Corvette filter regulator. But for normally aspirated simple setup like this, it's going to work great. So let's go under the car and keep looking at this fuel system. Up here you can see that we just ran this line in the stock location. All we did was unbolt the stock fuel lines, and we bolted this single line back in the stock location with some new clamps, and it runs all the way up the car just like the stock line would have. If you were running a return system, you'd either be running 2 new lines here, or you could potentially use your old fuel line as your return. Obviously, we're not running a return system. Let's go take a look at the front of the car and see what's going on there. All right, up here on the front of the car, this fuel line comes up outside the frame rail and right up here. Depending on what you're doing, if you're racing, you want to keep it away from the headers. Some of the NHRA stuff also has rules about fuel lines passing where potentially your flywheel or if something in your transmission happened, preventing your fuel lines from being cut by like a clutch or a flywheel going bad. That's not something I really have to worry about on this car, but I ran the fuel line on the outside of the fuel rail anyway. Made sure I had plenty of slack. It's running up and over. and it is running straight into our stock fuel rails with these fittings that I got that fit straight on the stock fuel rails. These are different sizes, just something you should know. I believe one is 3/8 and one is 7/16, with the smaller one being your return line. Now this car originally, you can see that it was a return style system. Depending on your setup, you may have either return or a returnless fuel system. Now behind me, I've got one of these that is a returnless system right here. So it doesn't have the return. So just a single fuel line from the factory ran to this one. And I was a little concerned that just what I did was, which was just capping off the return line, would potentially not work. I couldn't find any information online that definitively said either way that you could run a returnless system on return style fuel lines. I didn't think there was any reason why you couldn't, but confirmed from our setup that you can. So you can see here on the return, I just put a cap on there. I capped off the fitting. Now, if you have one of these return style fuel rail systems, you can see it works on vacuum here. So the way that this works, when you're at high vacuum, like at idle, this will make sure that more fuel flows back to the tank, and it actually lowers the fuel pressure. So I believe that most of these engines, or this one, ran at 58 PSI. The Corvette filter regulator will make sure that the fuel stays at 58 PSI. But this setup with the vacuum line that kind of changes the pressure for the return line would lower the fuel pressure at idle. That way the injectors, they'd get less pressure and they would deliver less fuel at idle. So if you're gonna switch over to a returnless system like this, that's gonna give you constant pressure, 58 PSI, even at idle without dropping it down, then you're gonna be a little bit rich at idle and high vacuum situations. I don't know that that's a big deal, and hopefully if you're doing a swap, you're gonna be tuning it anyway unless you're just running a bone stock system. But just know you're gonna have to do some tuning to make sure the computer doesn't have to compensate for the extra fuel. So on this setup, it hasn't been an issue. The thing starts, idles, runs like it's supposed to. We're not really going to talk about wiring on this video, but there are a couple things that I want to point out that we did to the fuel system. When it comes to wiring, let's take a look at those. So we used a stock harness and thinned out the harness. We haven't done the final gluing and wrapping of this harness, but we got rid of all the unnecessary stuff, which means that we have a lot less wires than the stock harness had. There's not a whole lot that means up here up front, but I'm going to show you something interesting in the back. So we have the PCM triggering a relay that powers the fuel pump. So we have our fuel pump wire going back here. And because this car has a trunk mounted battery, we have a shutoff switch right here. Our trunk mounted battery wiring is a little bit weird. I'll explain that in another video. But because this switch is like a double pull switch, it's essentially two switches. So I have the main power to the alternator, and I have my fuel pump wire on the switch. So whenever I turn this switch off, it shuts off power from the battery to the alternator, and it also shuts off power to the fuel pump. Now, the reason I did that is depending on your wiring setup, if you have one of these switches and you cut battery power, potentially your engine will still run off the power that the alternator is making. So just to ensure that, I made sure that it was also cutting fuel. If you're in an accident, there's a crash, you got to flip this switch. It would cut fuel immediately so that you're not just dumping fuel into a fire or something, or a leaking car. So that's why we did that. So there's not much else we had to do to this car to get it running besides some stuff with the tune. We're using the stock PCM and HP tuners. With the laptop, we had to remove VATs. And because of the cam, we did a couple things to the tune to get it to start up in idle, which we will explain also in a future video. With all that stuff, the car started in idle, but we did have one issue. So we were having issues with this entire bank of the engine not running. None of the cylinders on this side would work. We verified with the timing light that we were getting spark on every one of these wires. So I had wondered if changing over my return style system to returnless was making the fuel system not work somehow. But what I had to do to get this thing to start the first time was take off this little Schrader valve here. So this is where you would put in like a fuel pressure gauge if you were just testing fuel pressure. This side of the rail was filled with air. So I had to prime the pump a couple times by a key on, and then purge the air by just hitting that with a screwdriver until fuel came out.
purging the fuel rails.
So that's an overview of our second gen Camaro LS swap fuel system. I'm gonna try to fire this thing up real quick so that you can hear it and see how it starts and just see that it actually works. There may not be enough fuel in it to run, but we'll see. Also, if you have any questions about anything I talked about, hit me up in the comments, would be happy to answer, or something in the future you want us to make a video about when it comes to LS swapping your car. I do my best to answer every single one to be helpful. Let's see if this car will start. All right, so there are a couple safety measures. We have a breaker for our power to the entire car, battery cutoff switch. And since this car is not 100% together, we're gonna have to hotwire it. Red to pink is gonna be your key on. Obviously red is power. Power to purple is gonna be your starter. If we do that, this thing should turn over and fire. The fuel cell's empty, so it's not gonna start, but let's cut to a clip of it actually starting and running. I just wanna get a video of it, so fire it up.